Waiting for you to respond. There she is.
Yay!
On the same page again.
Yeah, we made it. Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine. That was a glitch.
Wonderful. Well, you know, I'm in Northeast Florida. You want to tell people where you're at?
I'm in Bristol, UK.
Yeah, so that this could be a problem getting connected is not all that surprising. But we're here, and I want to thank you so much, Katja, for coming on. You have an incredible story, and as everybody knows, I'm a big promoter of people sharing their experiences because that's how we learn. That's how other people gain hope. So,
well, I learned from you right at the beginning. So you were one of the first people I found when I was searching what carnivore diet's all about. So you helped me in the first place. So it's great to talk to you now.
Well, I'm privileged, and it's just wonderful to hear that. You know, I just do this because I want people to find hope like I found hope.
Yeah.
People need to know that we don't have to suffer, that we can fix most of what's wrong with us if we just stop putting toxins into our mouth.
Yeah.
So, without getting into all the intimate, gory details, okay, you got into the carnivore way of eating for multiple reasons. Would you care to share what those are, please?
So I had problems with depression, with anxiety, which often run together, ADHD, and then last year I also started developing arthritis, and that just kicked me overboard. So I've been having depression since I was about 12. So that's a long time now.
Now, when you say depression,
mm-hmm.
What was depression like for you? I mean, how did you perceive it?
Oh yeah, we've been talking about that before. How it felt for me, in comparison. Well, it came with low self-esteem. It came with the inability to hold relationships and be able to concentrate at school, to follow up at school. Nothing was, well, the thing with depression, it's not linear. It's really doom and I'm going to kill myself today. It is a roller coaster, and you keep on getting into the dark bits quite a lot. So basically my depression was just inability to hold relationships and to hold down school and work, and it was just a really dark doomy place. I've been always ruminating, bad self-talk, and just, you know, and when you're totally run down, so my body was totally run down, so I would always have a cold constantly as well. My whole system would be just ill all the time because I was so exhausted and depleted through the depression. Just when you're depressed, you're trying to keep your life together and try to appear like every other person. But it takes you so much energy. Now I know I've been exerting 4 times the energy in a day, keeping an appearance compared to what I have to do now.
Now you spend no effort on that kind of foolishness, correct?
Oh, I know.
That's so awesome that you're free of that nightmare. Because depression is truly horrible. I mean, it's almost, the more I look back on it, it's almost like depression was its own living thing for me. It was just, no matter what was thrown at it, it ducked and it dodged and it danced around. Of course, unknowingly, I was continuing to eat poorly and eat things that I was told was healthy, but we now know weren't.
Well, you were brought up on vegetables, and I've been eating a lot of vegetables. It didn't help both of us, did it?
We were doing what we thought was right. And we're just living examples of, you know, because no rational person knowingly eats things they know is going to harm them, as a rule.
No.
Booze and alcohol notwithstanding, of course, but seriously, I mean, you know, with our eating, I think I'll poison myself today with some oxalate. Now, we didn't know these things.
No.
So depression was a real horrible thing. Were you formally diagnosed?
Yeah, so by the time, so I started when I was about 12. Looking back at my school records, I can totally see when I completely dipped and everything went bad. But I first got diagnosed, put onto medication and into counseling when I was 23. So until then, I was just coping by myself.
Right.
And since that, right from the first diagnosis, it was diagnosed as severe depression, and I then had all sorts, like, they tried to diagnose me as borderline, they tried to diagnose me as manic depressive, and I've been on a lot of medications.
Oh my. Do you remember, can you remember the different medications you were on?
I actually found a list of some of the names, and I kept them here so I can read them out to you.
Awesome.
So I have been on diazepam. Well, the names are probably different here. But I'm just going to read them out.
That's a benzodiazepine. That's in the same family as Ativan, Valium, etc.
Yeah, lorazepam.
That is Ativan. Actually, that's the correct name for Ativan. Ativan's the company name.
Then I had citalopam. They tried me on lithium as well.
Oh my.
I think I was on something like beta blockers at some point. Something weird.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously tried to set me right. And mirtazapine was the last thing. That was horrible.
That was Remeron? They put you on Remeron?
Yeah.
That's Remeron, isn't it?
It totally knocked me out.
Well, see, the reason why I know about that one,
yeah,
and I'm double checking here to make sure. Yeah, mirtazapine. It's Remeron. I thought it rang a bell because when I had my nervous breakdown way back when, 2006 through 2008, Remeron was what they put me on because I didn't sleep for like 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, it makes you sleep.
Oh yeah, it did me.
It makes you not wake up.
But it did help you sleep.
Oh yeah.
What weight did you gain with it? Because it made me gain an enormous amount of weight.
Yeah, I've been gaining weight with that one and with the citalopam as well. So all of these things make you gain weight, but also on top of, I mean, my depression was maybe a bit less, I don't know, because I was numbed down, but it also made me feel psychotic. I was less in control than I was actually just being in a world of doom.
Right.
Yeah, you lose yourself a lot being on those medications. Well, maybe not everyone, but I did. And I feel someone feels like that, they shouldn't take it.
What you're saying sounds so familiar because you do kind of, your brain chemistry is being altered and they don't really know to what degree it's being altered, which I find very frightening in the long term when you think about it. So how long has it been, you're off all those meds now, correct?
Yeah.
How long have you been free of those meds?
Actually, the last one I was on was the mirtazapine, but I hated it so much. I took myself off it, although I was still depressed. I had to wean myself off it really slowly. It was quite something.
How long were you on? You recall?
That one I've been on for maybe 4 months. No, not even 4 months. I didn't last that long. Maybe 2 months, and then I had to give it up. So I haven't been on medication for over a year now. So I stopped taking them before I went carnivore. But I hated being psychotic.
Yeah, those meds, I sympathize because those medications, now, no, let's be clear here. Mm-hmm. They do help some people.
Yes.
They do
that
help
is great.
some people.
Yes, if it helps, take it.
Yeah, you know, we're not here to dump on it. We're not here to encourage people to stop taking their meds. In fact, I want to say right now, please don't stop taking your meds if you're on the change your diet until after you lose your symptoms. Because a lot of people will, I'm going carnivore. All these people have lost their symptoms. I'm going to stop taking my meds right now. and they don't titrate off safely, and they just cause themselves a lot of grief. So let's get that. And we're not giving medical advice here.
I'm not giving medical advice. I'm just telling my story, and I just tapered myself off the meds because I've been already on it at that point on different meds for about 15 years. So I kind of knew what to expect. And I knew what I can't deal with. So, yes.
When they would change your medications for your depression,
yeah.
Did you recognize later as like a cycle, or you know, was there a pattern that you would follow when you would change medicines? You know, as far as maybe you might feel better for a while, maybe you might feel worse and then feel better. How did it work for you?
Yes, Brett. So, okay. So what used to happen, not with all the meds, but with a lot of them, I take them and I feel better for a while. And I don't know if it's the meds or because I try to put some hope in every time, but I would say with the citalopram, at least I got the most experience with that one, because they put me on it 2-3 times. I kind of gone off it because my dose was too high, and they tried me on different things and then put me back onto it. And with that medication, I was kind of okay for a couple of months, and then it would go downhill. They upped my dose, nothing happened. They upped my dose again, nothing happened, and then kind of go
now,
like that.
Downhill, you mean your mood would crash? You would start, your symptoms would get worse?
Yeah, my symptoms just come back to normal because my body gets used to the meds, and basically it was no long-term solution ever. Yeah, and there were times as well when they recommended me to go to a hospital or to do electroshock therapy, which I both didn't do. You've been in similar situations, we know that, don't you? Yeah. Oh. Horrible.
So
can you imagine seeing me now?
I have to ask this because I remember what I felt like when they made those suggestions to me. I felt like the last judgment had been pronounced or something. Like I was literally at the end of my rope. What was it like for you?
Well, it's like, the thing is, they say those things to you when you're literally at the end of your tether and when there's no other hope. So you do consider it. And I did consider going into a hospital because at that point I was actually at home with 4 children, my son and 3 stepchildren, which was a lot to handle on top of being ill. And I wasn't really able to help. So I did consider that, but didn't do it. And with the electro, I wouldn't go that way. I had an electrocution as a child, and it's like an accident with it, so I wouldn't want to go back there. But I was always searching for other ways. The reason why I ended up on a carnivore diet is because I never gave up. Because I've always been looking for my holy grail, my way of getting out of this illness.
That's beautiful. That's such a powerful testimony there, Katja, because that's the one thing I emphasize, and you've heard me say it a lot before, is we have to let people know not only do they don't have to suffer, please don't stop searching. Don't give up.
Never, ever.
Can't not give up, because depression is so destructive and it's so insidious, and it warps your thinking to the point to where you truly believe the most irrational ideas, the most self-destructive things are good.
Yeah.
That's what literally, explain how that worked for you.
Yeah, that's true. I had that as well. And you come up with the most irrational thoughts about how you want to change your life. You had enough. You're exhausted by it. So you come up with the most irrational ways of changing your life and think it's a great idea. Sometimes it's quite good to have annoying people around you that stop you from doing those terrible things.
That's really remarkable. Now, because I truly believe that if enough of us people who've recovered from depression and mental illness could share our experiences together, I believe that we could come up with a better way to communicate with the mentally ill. Because
because
for
you've been
me,
there.
yeah, I think that we can develop, there's got to be a way to develop a program or something that makes it easier to communicate with the mentally ill who are, as you recall, I mean, share what was it like communicating with other people when you were sick?
Well, the thing is, I had anxiety as well and super low self-esteem, and tending towards being an introvert. Well, being a total introvert. I still am, but I can measure things out better now and take myself time if I need to. Whereby then I would be overrun with suddenly not being able to cope and literally having to run out of a room or not show up in the first place. So with the anxiety and depression, I would shut myself away when I was ill. I would not go to work. I would not reach out to friends, or if I reach out to friends, feel like a nuisance. But the shutting myself away and not leaving the house thing was the terrible thing, because it made it worse for me. So I didn't have community to help me, and I didn't have a friendship circle, a permanent friendship circle to help me and support me, which could have helped, but it's very typical, I think, for people who got depression, anxiety, to suffer by themselves and quietly. And in fact, some people would not necessarily know that I'm ill. They only see me when I'm up, when I'm good. And old friends say to me, "No, you're a party animal. You're all fine." So yeah, I'm a party animal because I've been drinking a lot before I left the house and totally hyped myself up. And the nights when I don't turn up, it's because I didn't manage to, you know. That's how it works for a lot of people out there, I think.
Well, thanks. I'm so happy and thankful that you are free of that. So how did you discover Carnivore? And did you weight issues before that? And we're going to get to the arthritis. I'm assuming we're probably going to get close to that now. But
yeah,
what was the progression of this for you, as far as getting?
Finding Carnivore.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I let me get the years straight, because actually my depression and anxiety comes with a lot of memory loss. My memory is shot, and I don't know if it's the illness or the medication, but it's probably better that way in some respect.
I can appreciate that very much, because there's many things people have talked to me. Are you going to write a book? Are you going to write about what happened? And I'm like, I don't really want, going down memory lane's not fun.
It's not fun. And I want to point that out, actually. It's really not fun. And you and me are doing this right now, so other people who need help hopefully find us and find some hope for it. It's not fun to revisiting all the horrible years and days that we had. Okay.
It's true.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. It's a lot easier for me to talk about now than it was this time a year ago. By a lot.
Good to hear.
The notion of me writing it all out is not as terrifying as it used to be. I mean, it really used to scare me, because it's been my greatest fear, and I'll ask you this question, that since I got better, is that I would do something out of ignorance to lose it, and I might never get it back. Because we know people who've lost it, and they've gone a long time without getting it back. When you lost your depression, do you have any of those concerns? Do you have any of those kinds of worries yourself?
So what do you mean? Can you elaborate a bit?
Well, I used to be afraid that I could make a mistake out of ignorance.
Right.
With eating, or etc., that I could I could lose my sanity again.
I understand. Yes, I do have that, and I worry about it, and I look out. I'm eating generally quite strict, and I do, and I need to, because I have come across situations where I've eaten out the other day, and I've eaten only meat, and I felt insane for it afterwards for 5 hours, and for another week felt really weak and ill and nephritic. But I went insane. So I ate the food, and within an hour, I started making those having those irrational thoughts again, to change my life over and to make decisions that are not made. So I'm really, really careful what I'm eating, and I'm double careful eating out again. So because the meat I ate was probably in some sort of sugar or MSG brine or whatever, I didn't manage to hear back from the restaurant what they actually put on it, but there was definitely something in there. I could see it. There was just lots of juice glistening out of it, which didn't look typical for cooked meat. Yeah.
Flavor added kind of thing. It's not, that's unfortunate. Well, I really hate that you went through that. And it's so, it's one of the things that I emphasize to people. You really have to be careful. You have to research what you're going to go eat, and you have to make sure certain yourself, because the restaurant's not going to do it for you.
No, they don't know.
You got to do the research on your own, and you got to be very clear. I always tell the wait staff when I go to a restaurant now, the size of your tip will be in direct relation to how well you follow my instructions. And I make it really clear. And these people want to be helpful. They're not out to ruin your evening. They don't want to make you sick, etc. As a rule. You just got to be so careful. And for us, it's not like we worry about, putting on weight or no. we have our sanity.
And the other thing is, actually, I don't crave any of the other foods. Sometimes I think, I'd love to have some onions and some mushrooms with my meat. But as soon as I walk to a shop, I never, ever go down those aisles and never, ever consider buying it. When I'm actually in the shop, sometimes when I smell it down the street, I think, that smells nice. I'd love to eat that. But actually, I never get to buy it, because when I go in the shop, I get so excited to go to the meat section. It's ridiculous.
I love it.
It's like my eyes get really glazy. It's like, oh my God, I gotta buy my food. I love it. I'm still not bored by it. So, yeah.
I think that is so awesome that you get excited, because I feel like a little kid now going to the meat counter.
Me too.
It's like, and even though I only eat the ground beef and the bacon, because that's all I crave right now, I love looking at those T-bones and tomahawk ribeyes and all the other cuts that you see, even cuts that I would never eat in a million years. I'm not going to name any of them. I don't want to offend somebody. But I mean, I genuinely love looking at it. It's like, this is the right stuff.
I always stand to the deli counter. They already know me. Oh, there she is. She's going to stand to the... Well, sometimes things are on offer, and then I will actually buy from the deli counter as well. Yeah. So you asked me how I got to the carnivore diet. Mm-hmm. So and in winter, depression gets worse in winter. We all know that. If you don't know it, this is something that really happens. People, when they don't have daylight and opportunities to go out, they will get more depressed sitting in.
Also, there's a thing with a vitamin D shortage that plays into that.
Yes, and that is a bugbear for me by now, because we're being given the advice to stay out of the sun at midday, which is wrong, 100% wrong. I'm all for going out and tanking up vitamin D. And apparently you don't burn as fast when you're on a carnivore diet, which I've been practicing, which I've been testing this year. And I had a lot of sun and I hardly burned. I got a bit of a redness and an itch, but nothing really major. So yes, I love vitamin D. It's part of my diet now.
Beautiful. That's awesome. So how'd you find out about carnivore?
So right, let's go back to winter 2017-18. I was off sick with depression. I off and on couldn't go to work. I started doing NLP. A friend of mine said, oh, I've been doing NLP and it might help you changing your mindset and helping you. And it might help you generally, because I always look for things to make me feel better. So I've been doing a lot of searching for enlightenment and seeking and just trying to adjust my life and my views of the world. So NLP fitted in quite well. So I did that, and it was amazing. And some of my depression symptoms seemed to be away. So I seemed really calm after it. So that was in spring 2018. I seemed really calm and good and handling things well. But for some reason, it really aggravated my anxiety, and I started getting anxiety worse than I ever had. And once I realized I'm having full-blown panic attacks. I'm trying to go out to see my best friends, and I'm on the bus and I'm having a panic attack, and I'm in the house half an hour before I have to leave, and I just can't move anymore. I'm hyperventilating. Everything goes crazy. So I ended up cancelling on everyone constantly. I lost a lot of friends that way. But they're probably not the right friends. So then I started getting suicidal and my depression started coming back. So that was a year and a half ago now. Just over a year ago now. So I ended up having the most severe anxiety interlaced with some depression coming back. And I was about to lose my job. I'm working for the local authority. It's very hard to lose your job for the local authority. They give you a lot of leeway of sickness you can have. And I basically breached the boundaries. I got to the point I couldn't handle it anymore. They couldn't pay me for not turning up. And I was sitting at home with anxiety, and I started getting arthritis as well. So my thumb and this finger started stiffening up. And I thought, what the hell? I got so angry. And tell you now, anger is a big, big, great thing. I realized the moment I get angry and really not handle things anymore. When you're depressed, you're kind of, oh, I'm depressed. I'm not able to do things with a lot of energy because I'm so low. But when you get angry and it bursts out of you and you go into full-blown Hulk mode, this is when the good stuff happens. Because I got so angry, I literally shouted out, I won't stand for it any longer. And it's like that 70s movie, The Network. Something Bale. Do you remember that one?
I know what you're talking about.
I'm mad as hell and I won't take it any longer. Something like that.
Yeah, it's
so
exactly
I felt like this is what was going on in my life then. But so I had the anxiety, the depression, ADHD going crazy in me. I couldn't concentrate on anything. Arthritis started, which was my savior, because then I had another word to Google. So I put in anxiety, depression, arthritis, and I found Michaela Peterson.
Oh, wow.
So it was really the last straw for me on one hand. On the other hand, it totally kickstarted a new life because I had a chance to get better. And I found videos of her talking about depression, how the antidepressants helped her, how she changed her diet. I saw her talking on Rogan. I then realized, hang on, I know her. I read about her in her dad's book. I read about her in her dad's book because I went to the NLP classes.
Ah.
That's why I've been talking about that. So if I would have never gone to NLP, I might have never come across Jordan Peterson's book, 12 Rules of Life.
Outstanding book. Outstanding book. I highly recommend it for everybody.
Yeah, I'm a girl who's a Jordan Peterson fan. Some other girls might be a little too feminist for this stuff, but I really like it. I like his way of thinking. And so he wrote a whole chapter on his daughter and her suffering with arthritis and depression. And I could then believe that crazy story of her eating just meat because I was already aware of them, which saved me. So it was Michaela that I found at the beginning, Amber Hearn, who also solved some mental health problems. She's fantastic. She has huge resources online, and she actually started the first Carnivore festival, which went out this year in Boulder, Colorado.
Yep. And next year is May 23rd and 24th. They're going to have the second one.
Yay.
I plan on being there in one form or another this time around. I'm really looking forward to it. Good
for you. I'm on the wrong side of the pond, unfortunately.
Oh, you can go to Phil Escott's next thing that he does next year. He had a conference in Spain he put together.
Yay, so Spain, I'm coming.
Yeah, there you go. That's just across the water for you. That's an easy one for you to get there.
Well, and I wanted to say in the third person was you, because I was looking out for people who were dealing with depression, and you were the third person I came across, and I was following your story and listened to you. It might have been your first interview where you talk how your parents had a vegetable patch and you were eating normal.
Right.
But everyone had
Carnivore Cast.
Yeah.
The Carnivore Cast. Scott Mislinski's awesome podcast. That was something that changed my life completely. That's what put me on the road to being a promoter. And shout out to Scott Mislinski. I also want to shout out to Lone Star Keto Girl, my friend Amber, my co-host on the Ketovore Cast. She's a good gal. She's had got her own powerful story. Katja, so you got the arthritis. You're at the point and you're like, I've had enough. I'm not going to take it anymore. And so you got proactive. And you started Carnivore. So how were you eating before you started Carnivore?
I have to say, I was lucky that I had a new colleague coming into work, and she was a Carnivore girl. She was really chilled out and switched on, and she was eating only meat. And I thought, good on you. You're doing something right. I don't mind you eating that way. Everyone else was pretty freaked out, but I quite liked it. So I had a real life example of a carnivore in my life, thank goodness.
That's awesome. See, that's something I didn't even have. I had to trust the integrity of the people I was watching. So
yeah.
Real life example there. What a great gift that was.
Yeah, it was really my stars did align, or my universe was aligning to find Carnivore, you see, because I had a real life example. I found Michaela, and I knew already about her dad. So it was all coming together bit by bit, and the arthritis as well. So yeah, fantastic. So yeah, how did I start eating? Is that what you asked? How?
What were you eating? How were you eating before you started Carnivore?
Okay, so before I wasn't a vegetarian. I had meat, but mostly chicken. I actually had a vegetable garden allotment, and I would grow some of my own organic vegetables, or I order in the veg box. I always try to stay organic. I already wasn't eating industrial manufactured flour things like pizza or bread, because a couple of years earlier I realized that gluten is not good for me. In 2016 I ended up with a 3-month-long headache that no doctor could solve, and I managed to get rid of it by cutting out gluten.
Wow.
I was seeing so many doctors. I went to A&E, and they just told me, go away. You're just taking the place from a cancer patient. That was after having a headache for 3 months straight. So I had to deal with it myself, really. So I was making home-baked sourdough bread. I was eating organic vegetables. I was having some eggs and bacon and chicken. And when my anxiety was worse, I was eating super healthy. I had my own kale and I was eating sweet potatoes.
Oh,
Horrible. I thought I was
oxalate.
being so healthy. I thought I'm the healthiest. Oh my God, I'm doing so well for myself. Soon I'm gonna be free of all my ailments and healthy. No, it gave me bad anxiety and it started my arthritis.
Oxalates are horrible, and
Oh,
it's really amazing. The more I learn about oxalates, the more I see kale and I see these things in grocery stores, and I just want to burn it all. I just want to say it because so nobody eats it and suffers from it.
yeah.
So when you made the transition to carnivore, talk about the first few weeks of when you went from how you were eating before to carnivore. What were you eating when you started carnivore? How much? Because you eat a little differently than I do, which is fine.
Yeah.
Everybody eats. It's always specific to the individual. So tell us about that.
So there was no transition really. I decided when my arthritis gone bad and I found out about Michaela, I decided to do GAPS diet, which lasted about 1 day. And then I went straight into carnivore. So I was from eating sweet potato and kale as my favorite meal, which I ate most days, to going carnivore, eating steaks and mincemeat. Pretty strict. Just the beef, bit of bacon, bit of eggs. I had the keto flu, as they say, or transition symptoms for about 6 weeks. It felt like some sort of depression, anxiety, but that really didn't make much of a difference to me. I was quite sluggish. I had no motivation. It was hard to get out, but it was just what I needed to do. So I just put all my hope into it and persevered. And I would tell everyone now, just stick it out for at least 6-7 weeks until you make any decisions, and be strict at the beginning as well, because cheating won't get you anywhere.
Cheating's just a form of sabotage. I mean, cheating implies gaining an advantage. There's no advantage to be gained by putting non-optimal stuff into your body. There just isn't.
To be fair, when you used to be depressed for so long, I mean, I had depression for 28 years. When you used to be depressed for so long, you can actually sabotage yourself, because you would enter a completely new world, which is, although maybe healthy and happier, absolutely terrifying because it's so unknown to you. So I can see how people give up too early and not stick it out. I was really lucky because, I don't know, I heard this, I feel lucky in general. I'm feeling really grateful that I ended up with the carnivore diet. I heard other people say similar things after about 4 or 5 days into eating carnivore. I had that mental clarity and energy and lack of anxiety suddenly. And it lasted 2-3 days, and I thought I arrived in heaven. It was so blissful and lovely. And if I wouldn't have, and then I reverted back to being keto flu transition symptoms. But if I wouldn't have had those few days to show me what it can be like to live a healthy life, I might have not stuck it out. So, yes.
You got what you needed when you needed it.
When I needed it, yeah.
That's so awesome. What a beautiful story, Katja. That's just really, and that's why I constantly preach to people, you have to be patient.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about 28 years that of illness combined, accumulative. There's all that damage from the meds, and then the foods that you're describing, rich in oxalate and whatnot. We know that that's horrible with inflammation, etc. Your arthritis was flaring up.
Yeah.
And you did a complete 180, not by eating less, not by starving yourself.
No. I was
But
eating until full.
it's
On the
awesome.
beach. Yeah.
It's beautiful. That is just so powerful. What a great example. And this is why I do these things, and I'm so happy. And I know that you're going to tell your story more and more often after today, because you have got an amazing story to share with the world.
That's why I'm here, Brad. I'm not keeping it to myself. Yeah, and feel I'm gonna share my story and hopefully help people that are in similar situations as me, not having to go through as many years as I did. Same for you as well. You putting your life into telling people there's another way of getting healthy and not having to stick out depression.
Yeah, because it's really, I mean, I worked in the mental health field when I was young, and you know, and working with people with depression, you know, it was horrible seeing how they were suffering, and then to suffer from it myself for decades or whatnot. It's like, and then there's a way to be free of it. I want to shout it. I want to tell my story until every person who needs to hear it has heard it. Then I can go back to being a musician again. But until then, music's on hold until everybody who hears it that needs to.
Yeah.
And I encourage people to take that tack. And as Amber says in chat, stories are powerful. They're extreme. Just look at the power of Michaela's story. How many people's lives have been completely turned around and literally saved just because that one person shared her story?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's astonishing.
So we can all be our own version of that. We're our own Pied Piper, if you will. I don't want to say proselytizing, because that's got all sorts of negative connotations. But to me, eating meat and drinking water is good news.
I think so. Yeah.
So what you do a few things differently to me than I do, and that's fine. How did you get into fasting? How did that start?
Fasting. I got into, well, really, with the carnivore diet, you realize you don't have to eat 3 times a day. You can eat twice a day, and then you realize you can have one big meal and you're done. One big meal for the day, and it's enough, and you're not hungry until like in 20 hours and 24 hours. And I've been doing some fasting, and I did recently been doing some 3-4 day fasts to help my body to clear out some more and to rejuvenate. I wouldn't do that straight at the beginning when you start carnivore. I went for 6-7 months just eating twice a day, and then when my body felt ready, I started fasting. Yeah, that's good. Although eating 1 meal a day and fasting, it might have a negative effect on my ADHD. I felt more ADD recently again, a bit more scatty. So that's interesting. It's great. I want to find out what exactly goes on and if I actually need really regular meals in order to keep those symptoms down and concentrate.
Well, here's what I was taught. And because I recognized a lot of the things that you were describing there. See, I was taught by, there's this group on Facebook called Zeroing In on Health. It's run by Charles Washington, a lady named Katja. These people have been living this way for 10 and 20 years. A lot of knowledge. That was where I learned how to do carnivore. And, you know, only eat when you're hungry. That's what you're talking about. You're only eating when you're hungry. You're not eating by the clock. You're eating when your body says, feed me.
Yes.
And when you eat till you're not another bite full. I bet you only eat the meat you crave and can afford. And you don't put sweet taste in your mouth.
No, I don't. Oh, hang on. I do.
Uh-oh.
Okay. I try not to, but I go through phases where I'm having dark chocolate little corners of it. This is as far as I go.
Some people find that okay. I would be terrified of it. I would just be horrified of it.
I know it's full of oxalates, and I kind of deal with the tiny amounts. Because you have to be a bit naughty sometimes in life, right?
That's just a personal preference. You know, that's what you do. And if it were, I know other people who do that and they don't have any problems. I approach it from the aspect, my sanity's too precious to take a risk for a flavor. That's just me.
Yeah.
That's just me. I don't make judgments on other people doing that because it's not what somebody else is putting into their mouth. None of my business.
Yeah.
It really isn't. What you're describing though to me is not so much fasting, but you're only eating when you're hungry. Now on these 4-day things, you were definitely ignoring your body's call for hunger then after a certain point, weren't you?
Yes. Well, with the extended fasts, yes, definitely you get hungry, but you can have water with electrolytes, which help a lot with the feeling a bit glitchy or hungry. I do drink coffee, but only mycotoxin-free coffee, which I find on Amazon. It's the only one I can drink. If I have normal coffee, I get arthritis straight away. So it's just that one brand that I buy of Amazon, mycotoxin-free coffee. Look it up if you've got problems with arthritis. That's good. I love my coffee. So I've been having coffee and water and doing 4-day fasts. That was okay. I like what it does to my body. I'm leaning out in places I didn't manage to lean out before. So I have to say my vanity is definitely getting a good boost from it, whilst helping with some other health issues at the same time.
I think that with regards to, you said your ADHD could perk up, I would just recommend, and this again, I always talk about listening to your body. I think your body's telling you something there. Yeah. I'm going to just guess. I'm just guessing that when you started feeling the natural hunger pains, I bet some of that ADHD stuff was starting to perk up around then too. I'm just guessing.
Okay, sounds interesting.
And you know, you might want to consider that at the point that your body says, I need food, you probably ought to give it some.
Yeah, I've been actually not pacing out the fast to the last second. So I was always just, what I've been trying to do is just go 1 or 2 hours, a few hours more than the last one, and not as long as I can actually go. But in the last 2 days, I realized, okay, my ADHD is coming back a bit, and I'm just going to watch it, and I'm going to monitor it and see if it really relates to my hunger pangs, because it absolutely. I reckon it might be to do with not eating regularly.
It's one of the things that people run into.
Or cutting eggs.
Eating the way that we did growing up just wrecked our natural body signals and how we perceive what hunger is, what real hunger is. And you know, it just throws this, and we live out of our natural rhythm, what we were designed to do for all these years.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, you know, we start giving ourselves real nutrition, and these other things are possible that we never considered. But I think if we don't pay attention to what our body's telling us, we kind of miss. We run the risk of maybe making a mistake. Again, like I said earlier, out of ignorance, out of inexperience.
Right.
That could come back and bite us. And it sounds to me like you were right at the edge of something kind of ugly about to happen if your ADHD was coming back. So there's also, I don't have the link to it. I need to commit it to memory. There's a panel discussion at one of the keto conferences where they spend a lot of time cautioning people about fasting. And I just encourage everybody here, and you included, to be careful. Listen to your body. You know, the human tendency, well, how was it when we were eating garbage? If that was good, then more of it will be better. And some of that's a learned behavior that we haven't all kicked to the curb in all aspects of our lives. Well, if 24 hours of fasting is good, well, 72 ought to be spectacular then. And that's just not necessarily the case for everybody. So
exactly.
I encourage great caution for most people. Now, you obviously, your affect is beautiful. The smile, you just radiate happiness and health. We don't have a lot of time left. I didn't see exactly what time we started. I think
just one more thing. One more thing I just thought of. So until now, I started in early December 2018 on this carnivore diet. So I'm coming up for my 1-year carniversary. And up until now, I was just dealing with generally being well, staying well, starting to trust myself and my body that this is true. It's not just a positive blip on the depression scale. Because you do think that. Didn't you think that at the beginning?
Well, I had a different experience. My experience was like, I talk about that morning, August 9th. I'm taking a walk. It's 6:30 in the morning. And it's like this switch flipped. And all the darkness and all the stuff that cannabis had been repressing or what, it all just went away.
Yeah, lovely.
And I was filled with joy and happiness that's never left.
Oh, so
that was my experience. Now, a lot of people describe going into it, they get better gradually. It's always going to be specific to the individual.
It felt gradual to me because I had to build up a lot of trust into staying okay and going, is this real? Is this a placebo effect? And it isn't, because if it would be, this would be a placebo effect that lasted nearly 11 months now. And I want to find any placebo effect that they managed to make last that long. So I'm started my Instagram and starting to find other people in the carnivore community. I'm finding people who are really specialized. So I found people who are specialized into candida problems, which are not listed on my profile, but I definitely had that problem too. And I found some people who are eating carnivore specifically to deal with ADHD. And I'm having some fantastic conversations with some ladies out there. And I'm keen to learn a lot more from them. So it's not just me sharing my story, but I'm actually actively, definitely learning a lot from other people.
That's beautiful. That's the carnivore community is so awesome. People, it's like I found the rest of my family in many ways.
Yeah, a tribe that can understand your funky new lifestyle.
That's true, and you do something I think is just spectacular. You are proactive there in your local community. You want to talk about that for a minute?
I got two things in my community. One thing is I'm an artist and and I've been doing collage art a lot. So since I became better, I started a collage group which meets regularly, where people can just come and use the materials I bring and scissors and my glue and scissors that I bring for people, and it's drop-in sessions. And it's a place for people just to relax and to mindfully create artwork and find new other people who are in a similar situation. So it's like a breakout zone out of your week of stresses. And I provide that regularly locally now, and there's a lot of people who are interested in that, which is fantastic. And I also run a local meetup group here in Bristol.
Wow, that's great.
Again, to connect people, because it can be hard. I think the hardest for people is that it's socially not acceptable to be carnivore. And most people here are totally on the vegan train. And so it can be hard for people to just find the motivation and to find a network. So we're really small group at the moment, but I'm going to keep it up because community is the best indicator of success. If you have health issues and you find your community, you're so much more likely to persevere and to succeed. So yeah,
that's true. That's very true. And I have some friends that I grew up with. who learned that lesson. They had cancer experience, and they found these communities of other ladies, cancer survivors and whatnot, who walked them through, and they've got this beautiful thing set up, and I envision a time where carnivores are able to do something similar as well. It's just going to take time. That we need a few million more of us out there instead of the few hundred thousands that we've accumulated now. Although I see on Instagram, I bet you see it too, more and more people are trying it. More and more people are searching for an answer to their illnesses and their chronic sickness. They're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're willing to. Go ahead.
You've gone blurred.
It happens. Don't worry about that. I ate like right beforehand, so it's not because I'm hungry, I promise.
Okay. Now I ate before we went on as well. Of course, on top of decades of mental health problems behind us, we got another thing in common, which is we're both in a carnivore relationships with other carnivores. That
is a big deal. Now, I didn't know your significant other was carnivore too. How somebody else is, another couple can talk about it, and I just don't sound like a dirty old man. That's
what please, we don't talk about it. We just do.
Please share what living in general, how has that improved? Not just your interpersonal skills, but your at-home life.
To be fair, the way it worked out for me, I got together with my partner in May. May the 1st we got together, and May the 13th was the first day he tried carnivore. So basically, I got into a new relationship, and he went, really? This is what's happening to you when you eat that? I'm gonna try. So 2 weeks into our relationship, he said, okay, I'm gonna try it for 30 days. And then within a few days, he said, okay, I'm going to do the 90 days. And since then, he just stuck with it. And I don't think he would want to give it up now. We're both quite happy. He's into lifting weights, and he enjoys the mental clarity and energy and just feeling of physical health that comes with it. And the testosterone levels as well, obviously.
Hey, I talk about this. I don't think it's talked about enough.
It's not talked about enough, but it's true, yeah.
And I'm 58, and I was on meds for years longer than you, and it really messed my physical libido. Was just mentally, the desire was still there, but physically, it just wasn't happening like it ought to be because I was so obese and the meds, etc.
No, it's the same for women as well. It messes with your libido being on the medications, and also your ability to enjoy things.
And
talk about it, we can talk about
it. But when we were eating all the oxalates and the horrible foods or whatnot, that ruined us, hurt our libidos because of all the inflammation we were causing ourselves. And I know I'm like an 18-year-old on the inside now, with a 58-year-old's hopefully some common sense. You know, I'm not. When you're 18, you know, your hormones kind of control of you. But I mean, it's like that, and it's like that for my wife now. And it's to say it's improved our marriage would be an understatement and a half. I mean, we're not just on the same page. We're like in the same sentence.
Yeah, and generally, don't you think on carnivore, I mean, I find on the carnivore diet, I find it's my way of communicating with people. It's like I'm in a room with people I never knew before, and suddenly I find myself, oh my God, I'm having a conversation. People are listening to me. I'm enjoying myself. They're enjoying the conversation. This is something that I never had before. When you're anxiety and depression, I did not enjoy groups of people, and I used to always stick to meet up with just one friend or be for short times in groups or rooms, you know, parties, either for really short times or just fill myself up with whatever, alcohol, whatever there was really, in order to make it bearable. Yeah. So this is
Well,
good.
listen,
Yeah, things are good now.
I'm so happy that we did this. I'm glad we stuck with it when we had the technical difficulties. Instagram is going to shut us off any second, any minute. I didn't log the exact time that we started. I just want to thank you so much for coming on today, Katja. This will be up for 24 hours here on my Facebook story, but it will be uploaded to my YouTube channel at Thankful Carnivore for other people to see in perpetuity or until YouTube ceases to exist, whichever comes first. I appreciate you taking time out of your day, Katja, and what a beautiful story. Thank you so much.
It's a real pleasure.
I think in time, you're going to be a guest of Phil Escott more than once because your story is so powerful.
Well, you're the sweetest.
Well, you keep doing what you're doing, dear. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who tuned in and watched. We had a lot of people watching. Had some great comments from folks. Brilliant. Eat your meat, people. Drink your water, and always be thankful. Katja, take care, sweetheart.
Take care. Have a lovely evening or afternoon for you.
All right. Peace be with you all.
Speak soon. Bye.